Welcome to Beyond Belief. I'm glad you're here. Really. Wherever you're listening from right now, the car, a quiet walk, a room that finally feels still, or a place that's anything but, this moment matters. So before we go anywhere, before we think, before we analyze, take a deep breath. Because what we're talking about today isn't new, but it's necessary. We're talking about how peace disappears. Not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly and gradually. We're talking about how one small thing can begin to feel like the whole story. And learning how to zoom out might be one of the most spiritual practices available to us. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how life rarely falls apart all at once? It's usually much subtler than that. You can have a job, a roof, food, people who care, and then one thing. Just one. A sentence someone says that sticks, a prayer that feels unanswered, a door that stays closed longer than you expected. And suddenly, that's the thing. It's the thing you wake up thinking about, the thing you replay while brushing your teeth, the thing that sneaks into quiet moments. Everything else fades into the background. And here's the strange part. Nothing else actually changed, but your experience of life did. It's like sitting in a room full of light, but staring at the one shadow. You don't lose the room, you just lose perspective. It's like ordering your favorite meal, perfectly cooked, beautifully plated, and sending it back because the fork has a scratch on it. And everyone at the table is thinking, "Are you serious?" But when it's your scratch, it feels reasonable. And the question underneath all of this is simple, but uncomfortable. Why is peace so fragile? Jesus names the dynamic clearly. In John chapter 10, he says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy." Now hold on a minute here. We often imagine stealing as something aggressive, obvious, or violent. But what if most stealing is quiet? What if peace is stolen, not by tragedy, but by attention? Because if the enemy can't take your salvation, or your faith, or your future, he'll take your focus. He'll convince you that what's missing is more important than what's present. And once that happens, gratitude shrinks, joy thins out, and hope feels distant. Paul understood this when he said, "We take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ," which tells us something important. Not every thought is neutral. Not every thought is true. Not every thought deserves a microphone. Some thoughts need correction. Some need distance. And some need silence. I've lived this more times than I can count. I can be surrounded by purpose, clear calling, meaningful conversations, and then one thing doesn't move. One thing doesn't resolve, and suddenly my inner world shrinks. It's not that God disappears, it's that my vision does. I start measuring life by the one thing that hurts instead of the many things that hold me. And when you're zoomed in, everything feels urgent. Everything feels heavy. Everything feels personal. But zoomed out, things settle. And if this feels familiar, that's because you're human. We all do this. We remember criticism longer than encouragement. We replay loss louder than provision. We let one disappointment rewrite an entire chapter. Ecclesiastes says, God has made everything beautiful in its time. But beauty requires distance. You can't see a mosaic from 2 millimeters away. All you see is a broken tile. This is why Jesus teaches the way he does. When people worry about money, about food, about the future, he doesn't shame them. He redirects them. Look at the birds, he says. Birds don't store barns. They don't panic. They live open-handed. Then he says, look at the flowers. Flowers don't strive. They receive sunlight and become beautiful. Jesus is teaching a spiritual practice. Look outward, lift your eyes, zoom out. And then he says, is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? Which is Jesus saying, you're reducing life to one anxious category, but life is bigger than that. Psalm 103 reminds us, forget not all his benefits, not because God withholds, but because we narrow our vision. So let's pause right here. What's the one thing you've been zoomed in on? What would happen if it wasn't allowed to dominate the whole story? Gratitude doesn't deny pain. It reframes it. Paul says, give thanks in all circumstances, not for everything, but in everything, because gratitude widens the lens. So, may you learn to zoom out. May you see provision even while something is unresolved. May you notice the grace that's been quietly sustaining you. May peace return, not because everything is fixed, but because your vision is wider. Next time when frustration rises, pause. Name 3 things that are still good. Not as denial, but as resistance. Because when you zoom out, the thief loses leverage. Thank you for listening to Beyond Belief. Thank you for choosing awareness, for choosing perspective, for choosing peace. And remember, you are surrounded by more goodness than you can see when you're zoomed in. Grace and peace. Until next time, God bless.